Hey everybody, Douglas Blair Roberts here, the Super Vader 400 and the brown skin Hewitt, coming back at you with another video cartoon intro remake review intro. This is the intro to various remade cartoon reviews and rants. For some odd reason, even though I did do this in the past, when it one of the Sonic songs I used has a copyright on it, and it's not a big deal. But if I ever when I decide to set this channel up, when I get eligible for monetization, I can't get any money from ads from the video, so that's why I'm just redoing it with two different songs that surprisingly don't have copyrights on them. This version is the same as the last one, except my clothes and stuff will be different, and of course the intro songs will be different. Instead of using what I'm made of, I will use the songs intros will be Weekend and Sonic's Back in Time. And for cartoons that do deserve a rant, or for videos that do deserve a rant, what I'm made of will be used as the outro for the various cartoons. So yeah, this is the intro to various narration. Part 1 will be narration. Second part will be season and episode webcam reviews spliced together in one video. Some of these won't go on all platforms. Yes, some of these will only go on YouTube, and some of these will only go on Facebook. So, with that being said, let's get started right now. Let's go back in time to when television and cartoons were great.
Hey everybody, it's time for my late out of date part 1 webcam review of all the He-Man cartoons. Yeah, this was originally going to be narration, but I'm sick of finding pictures and recording them and placing them on a timeline and recording them for a narration project. So from now on, unless I don't know really much of anything about the said franchise, I'm just gonna do webcam for everything. Especially now that I know how to use custom thumbtails, as you see right here. But this is all of the He-Man cartoons. I use the 90s thumbtail because I think that is the best. That is the number one and supreme best He-Man cartoons. But yeah, been wanting to talk about He-Man for a long time. This is the short part 1 webcam version. The larger part 2 real life superhero webcam version will be in the description box below. And when I finish rewatching the series, the 3, 4, 5, and 6 and 7s will be the season reviews of each television series. So with that being said, for this there will be nothing playing in the background, too much of a hassle, so that'll be part 2. Yeah, so with that being said, let's get started with the He-Man cartoon reviews. Like I said, I got into the He-Man franchise in 2002 and discovered the show I'm about to talk about right now, the 1983 series, the first cartoon series in the He-Man franchise. I got into this in the mid to late 2000s and rewatched it in 2012 and 13, where I gained a whole new appreciation for this series. Just like with Double Dragon, Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and Mega Man cartoons, and many more cartoons, I always watched the Witch Watcher or the Witcher's stupidity collage, or the various memes associated with He-Man. And I wrote this off as just a cheese-tastic cartoon from the 1980s. But when I rewatched it again in 2012 and 13, it still hadn't aged well, but it still hadn't aged well in the animation and production department. But the storytelling and writing was stronger and better than I remember for a low budget 1980s toy based cartoon, which was pretty much a 30-minute advertisement to sell toys. Which already, that is the only thing, that is one of the, besides the dated animation, the one thing I didn't like about this show. Since this show was for the most part just a 30-minute toy commercial, the storyline was kinda all over the place in this cartoon series, and characters kept reappearing and disappearing with no explanation because they wanted to get rid of the old characters and replace them with new characters, especially for the bad guys. One of the only remaining ones was the character of Beastman. He was constantly replaced by newer characters as the show continued move along. Now, they did offer a brief on-air explanation with some of the minions occasionally being in jail, but other than that, you don't really get much. And sometimes you see characters appear with different people, such as you have Evil Man and Beastman, who are part of Skeletor's crew. In one episode, they appear with a supervillain called the Game Master. The Game Master just randomly with little to no explanation. It probably is. I probably have to just watch the episode again. But But like I said, the show's strongest parts were its writing, featuring storylines from the late Larry DiTillo. Yeah, Larry DiTillo, who passed away last year. David Weiss and even Paul Dini and Bruce Timm got their start in this cartoon right here, and so did several Babylon 5 writers. So this cartoon features strong writing and an awesome soundtrack produced by Shuki Levy and Haim Saban of Saban Productions, who I envisioned them as much younger people. I had no idea they were as old as they were. They were all the way back in the 80s. So yeah. The intro and the outro are like two of my all-time favorite parts of the show, along with the part where He-Man punches the screen, which is used over and over again. This character is also, I think he's one of the earliest characters to break the censorship mode, with featuring character who could realistically hit people. But he was most often not. He mostly just wrestled and blocked attacks, wrestled and threw things at people and blocked attacks with his sword. So yeah, this was a good sci-fi comedy adventure cartoon with superhero and fantastic overtones for kids and a great start. And while I consider this the weakest of the He-Man cartoons, it's the most iconic and it's the longest with these characters not only making the most cameos in a modern day, but the two most recent He-Man cartoons to come out were based upon this, and it's the longest, being over 130 plus episodes long. So yeah. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Now we move on to its spin-off sequel, She-Ra and the Princess of Power. Princess of Power television series. This show right here, while not as exciting as the previous He-Man, this show was way better than that of the previous He-Man. Better a better and bigger storyline, better animation, more action, and several cool new characters, along with She-Ra itself, and a brand new antagonist in Hordak, who's much better and much more threatening than Skeletor, whom I like Skeletor, but the Filmation Skeletor, in my opinion, is one of the worst bad guys ever. He got better in the other adaptations of He-Man, especially the next one I'm about to talk about. But yeah, She-Ra. Just watched 5 episodes of this to refresh my memories of what this was. Yeah, everything about this show was way better than the first one, and He-Man and the characters appear in this one right here. So yeah, She-Ra, the Princess of Power. Now we get to the final one of this series right here. Even though this is an entirely different animation studio and production team, and I think writing team involved, this show is still a continuation of the Filmation franchise, and that is the New Adventures of He-Man. This is a brand new, more sci-fi, action-oriented anime Flash Gordon. Thundercats, and many more. 1908 Thundercats, Dungeons and Dragons, Visionaries, Knights of the Magical Light, and many more late 1980s and early 90s, mid to late 1980s and early 90s action adventure cartoons style of He-Man. And this cartoon has a predominantly mixed negative reception amongst fans especially fans who prefer the Filmation version, because this show departed a lot from it. But I think this show is way better than the Filmation version, and I often grade this in the Filmation version as their own thing, treat them as their own thing. But it turns out that both of these shows, but all three of these shows are connected. And even though He-Man looks different, has a different catchphrase, a different everything, he's still the same character. Him and the rest are still the same characters they were in the previous shows. They've grown and developed. Yeah, this show, He-Man and Prince Adam are now basically one being. Prince Adam has the same personality as He-Man. He's grown up and mature. The difference between He-Man and Prince Adam is He-Man has power and Prince Adam's just a regular guy. So yeah, this show was way better. People criticize it, saying Skeletor, who was heavily redesigned, not only appearance but personality wise too. They claim this is not the Skeletor of the Filmation, of course, because this Skeletor was more competent and actually won in the end, and briefly ruled Eternia until He-Man and the Galactic Force ended his reign of terror and sent him It sent him and his female follower, Krita, I think that's her name, floating in a spaceship in space. Yeah, like I said, this in my opinion is the greatest of the He-Man cartoons. This cartoon features He-Man and Skeletor being transported to the futuristic world of Primus, where He-Man helps the people of Primus battle Flog and the mutants who team up with Skeletor to conquer Primus, with characters like the Sorceress and Teela making cameo appearances. He-Man's signature furry underwear and furry boots are from the original series are gone and replaced with blue spandex and brown boots, and now he has a cool ponytail. Yeah, the comic book version is even cooler with the same look, except he has yellow boots and a yellow javelin thing to hold his sword. So yeah, the new Avengers of He-Man and Skeletor has pupils. Skeletor has pupils in this and has a design similar to that of Mumra. He even transforms and gains an enhanced form later in the series, and he has a personality that is a hybrid of the 1987 Masters of the Universe live action movie and and Jack Nicholson's 1989 Batman Joker. So yeah, and I like how this Skeletor is more psychotic and crazy and more jokier compared to the original Skeletor, and takes his failures well and comes back stronger than ever than the Filmation version, who is just your stereotypical villain who makes plans that end up failing and blames everyone around him and constantly whines and complains. I don't like villains who whine and complain. I like villains who get things done, and that's what you have here in the 90s version. So yeah, one of the greatest cartoons ever. I'm angered to hear that the reboot, which I'm going to talk about later, the reboot Grayskull sort of ignores this series, because it's awesome. Yeah, before I get to the next He-Man cartoon, I forgot to talk about it, but the 1987 live action film, which is basically a live action reenactment of the cartoon, the Dolph Lundgren movie, a live action reenactment of both the cartoon and especially, which it doesn't give it credit for, the mini comics that came with the character action figures, which this movie doesn't get credit for. This movie, the Dolph Lundgren 1987 Dolph Lundgren Frank Langella film, which I still consider an okay film today. I consider it one of the best of the 80s. It's just an average film today, but I am impressed that in the 80s they were even talking about and even made a He-Man movie, because you've seen how big budgeted the cartoons He-Man and She-Ra and how hard it will be to duplicate all of that in real life in that time period. But they managed to do it. Sucks their plan didn't work, but I love what they tried to do. They introduced the few main characters: He-Man, Teela, Man-at-Arms, and a stand-in. He-Man, Teela, Man-at-Arms, Skeletor, Evil Lyn, and Beastman, and stand-ins for the other characters, because they didn't have the budget. They didn't have the budget for them. And then if this movie had been successful, when they got more money and made the sequel to this became Cyborg, Jean-Claude Van Damme's Cyborg, 1989. But had this movie been a box office success, they would have brought in more characters and more stuff from the show, and would have had a much bigger budget to fully recreate the He-Man cartoon. But that didn't happen. A lot of people didn't like this movie from the changes it made to the source material, and changes they made to the source material, such as in this version, He-Man and Prince Adam are one person. Because this is, when people don't know, this is based upon the mini comics where He-Man was a wandering barbarian and warrior rebel, like he is here, leading a battle, leading a rebel battle in force against Skeletor. So yeah, that's He-Man. So yeah, that was the 1987 live action film. There was also He-Man and the Secret Sword, He-Man and the Secret Sword, He-Man and She-Ra, He-Man and She-Ra, which has the sorceress having He-Man search for a magical sword. I can't remember whether this was a prequel or a sequel to the She-Ra series. I think it's a sequel, but I'm actually surprised Filmation, just like Canon Films making a live action film, I'm surprised Filmation were able to make a full length, the low budget Filmation were able to make a full length animated movie where they have this iconic, catchy, lyrical, I have the power, I have the power, and so do you, something like that. Yeah. So yeah, these were the He-Man movies. Sorry, I reviewed them out of place. I quickly want to talk about that awesome 90s television series, which, like I said, the 90s is, my opinion, so far the supreme best cartoon, He-Man cartoon, and the supreme best in the He-Man franchise. So yeah, the He-Man, the 1990s He-Man cartoon, which is, once again, why I use that as the thumbnail to lead you into this video. Then what else after the 90s He-Man cartoon? 2000, next is 2002, my opinion, the second best He-Man, and this is the cartoon people wildly consider it the best. This cartoon was the greatest, in my opinion. It's one of the greatest shows Cartoon Network has ever had, and one of the greatest shows Toonami had, and it was angered when the show disappeared from the network, and the reason it disappeared, it was canceled due to low ratings and low toy sales. One thing I liked about this and the other adaptations of He-Man after the 1983 version, whereas all these were made to sell toys, but you can tell after all of the adaptations after the 1983 cartoon, they tried more storytelling and more lore with it. When it came to He-Man, they were more about the storyline and characters than they were about selling toys, and that's one of the reasons these shows didn't last. Sadly to say, one of the reasons these shows didn't last as long as they did. And also, this show premiered at a bad time. In the early 2000s, the original He-Man fans had grown up and had moved on. Most of the newer, younger fans like me just really didn't care for the cartoon, and in early 2000s, it was all about anime. So unless you were a Marvel, DC, or Star Wars based cartoon, yeah, no one cared. No one cared about this. And the sad part about it was, I think had they been patient, because when you got to the mid to late 2000s, the 80s nostalgia started becoming popular again, and I think the ratings and the toy sales of He-Man would have continued, but it was far too late by then. By then, they have fully moved on, and Ben 10 became the flagship character of their franchise. But yeah, this was the greatest show ever. This one got to do things other ones didn't do, such as the coolest thing this show got to do. It ran for 2 seasons. First season was okay. The second season was much better. This show brought in King Hiss, Rattler, and the Snake Man into the franchise, and Zodak, a character who did appear in the 80s version, who I didn't know who appeared into the 80s version when I did my narration reviews a decade ago. He got a larger role. He got a larger, more extensive role here. And King Hiss and the Snake Man are some of the most scariest villains I've ever seen in He-Man. Yeah, first season was okay, but the second season was way better, especially when He-Man got his second best costume, the silver, green, and gray snake armor. He also had another cool costume in the, I think the episode was called Trust, which was the modern version of Trapjaw's legendary Eternium episode from the 80s version, where He-Man had some cool ice armor, and and yeah, this show is a much more edgier sci-fi action oriented Hollywood animated movie style version of the 1983 version, whereas that was a sci-fi comedy adventure cartoon for kids. This one was more Hollywood action oriented for mature audiences, and the show is getting better and better. Season 3 are planning on reintroducing Hordak and She-Ra into the franchise, but the show was canceled before that, and that's why it's the second best. It would be number one, just like the '90s version, if it were more complete. But yeah, so yeah, the He-Man, and this is it for the He-Man cartoons. After this, there will not be another He-Man cartoon until like 2 decades later in 2020 and 21. The first was great. The first was She-Ra, the Prince of Power. This cartoon looks okay. It has a mixed and negative reception online, but it looks okay. I'll probably never watch it because I'm too busy watching the original He-Man cartoons. But when I finish watching those, I may give this a look. Then you got the next show, Grayskull, which this is a sequel, a follow-up to the 1983 version. In 1983 version, yeah, this one looks cool. I'm disappointed by the fact it ignores the awesome New Adventures of He-Man series, but I think you can ignore that show without completely reckoning it out. I mean, they can say the show happened, but not reference anything in that show, because the show took place in a different world compared to what's his name. But that was one of the main reasons I didn't check out this show. It ignores the '90s version, and I've heard terrible things about it. Then you got the other one, the 2021, which is like a hybrid of the New Adventures of He-Man cartoon, The Incredibles, and the Masters of the Universe 1987 original mini comics He-Man, elements of that New 52 DC He-Man comic book He-Man. This is the best, in my opinion, the best one of the three versions. I can't wait to check this out. I haven't checked it out because like I said, the original He-Man cartoons are so much more exciting that I didn't check these out. But I'm happy that the 2020s have the late 2010s and 2020s have a He-Man cartoon too. So, and I'm still waiting for that He-Man rebooted movie, but I'll talk more about that in a review of the 1987 film. So, with that being said, this was my off-camera webcam review of the 1987 He-Man He-Man cartoons. To see the larger Part 2 on-camera real-life superhero version, the links will be in the description box below. I'm also bringing back the post-episode review and reactions for each episode I see, because no matter how many times I see these cartoons, I always forget what happens in each episode. So with that being said, you want to hear the rest of the music? Turn the video off right now.
like I disappear. So